Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand this Sunday morning. One of my favourite morning shows is always the Sunday morning. Normally in the summer, to be fair, because what we get on a Sunday morning, and we're going to talk about this Glazer sale fallout. Are they forced to sell? Are they going to stay? Also a couple of shock transfer swoops coming in from potentially for Manchester United this summer involving a Danish young superstar striker potentially and also a Chelsea midfielder. But before we get into that, I love the Sunday show because, and I always say this, when I was growing up, we used to get the Sunday papers, News of the World, The People. They're journalists that just work on a Sunday, basically. So you get different stories on a Sunday. Hence, it can be quite interesting around transfers. So good morning, everybody. We have Ben Foster did win. Well done to him. We did. Actually, I said that on the show in Manchester on Thursday night. The United Stand, you should pat yourself on the back, the community. We had Paul Ince on the show. He got a job at Reading. We've had Ben Foster on the show. He's now got a job at Wrexham. So who's the next ex-player we're going to get on? They could be the next England manager, hopefully. But anyway, look, let's dive into this. Lots to get into. Talking about the sale this morning. Good morning, Mark, says Ahmed. Good morning, Ahmed and everybody. Just the order of the day, we'll have a normal 8 o'clock show, Sunday night 8 o'clock show tonight, which we don't seem to have done for a while because United normally play on a Sunday. So let's dive into this. The latest news around the sale, and we're going to be talking about, and I'm probably going to pronounce his name wrong, Rasmus HOJLUND, the 20-year-old Danish striker that United had been linked to. Very exciting striker. Probably somebody that we've not really mentioned on the show and any of the news shows so far, but certainly somebody I've seen many of you mentioning in the chat. Currently at Atalanta, looks like a really exciting profile of a striker. We'll talk about him in a minute. KOVACIC as well and a few other people. But look, I love your channel, says somebody there. Well, thank you very much for watching. Gary starts typing emails, says that. We'll talk about Gary a little bit in a minute. Also, I want to talk about what Maguire said yesterday because a few people pulled me up on the fact that Maguire said he has got nothing to prove and a couple of other United players have said that and I've never said anything about it. But first of all, let's give you the latest on the sale of Manchester United. So where we are at the moment is obviously that those offers have gone in. There is an update coming in from the Mail. They're saying that Sir Jim Ratcliffe tabled a formal second offer by the club for the club on Thursday, which included details about his plans to modernise Old Trafford, including the phases of development and where the money for that would come from and how long it would take. Now that's quite interesting because there's also a story coming in that the Qatari bid through Al Thani has agreed with the Glazers that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can go and play games in Qatar in the stadiums they've got there. I think Doha was mentioned. So there are these intricacies in these deals that some might say, why would the Glazers care about where the money's going to come for the stadium and everything like that? And you can understand why the Glazers would want to take the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to play in Qatar. So there are things going on with these bids that are a little bit more detailed than you would expect if the Glazers weren't intending to sell, because there is still this story floating around this weekend. We spoke about it yesterday, that the Glazers might have put Manchester United up for sale just to be a bit nosy, just to see what people would actually bid, so that in the future they've got a fair reflection of, it's like having a Ferrari on your drive if you're lucky enough and you want to know what the value of it is. You can go on the website and it will say it's worth such and such, but if you actually put it up for sale and people bid for it, you've got a real example of what it's worth. I don't think the Glazers have done that. Some people do. I think there is a bit of conflict in the Glazer family, which we'll talk about in a moment. But these bids that are going in, they're not just speculative bids. These are people who genuinely want to buy the club. And there is detail around that. Is it a possibility to target Ollie on some day for a chat, says Ozzy? Yeah, I wouldn't mind Ollie on, actually. And concerned Joel and Avram will buy out their siblings and stay. And this was an exercise to gorge the price, says John Stewart. Well, look, the latest on that is this. Those close to Sheikh Jassim Al Thani's bid say he remains confident of success and has ample funds not just to buy Manchester United, but invest hugely in the stadium and squad and the local community. That's coming in from the Mail. The four other Glazers siblings, Brian, Kevin, Edwin and Darcy, are rumoured to be in favour of selling Manchester United at a big profit, but not as necessarily as much as 6 billion. So, I mean, look, we're getting into family trees here, but the reality is we all know who Joel and Avram are. They're the Glazers who are most visible around Manchester United, but there are four other siblings, Brian, Kevin, Edwin and Darcy, who we never see, who have as much of a stake in the club. They're the people that want to sell the club, and they're the people that, aren't pushing for ridiculous money, apparently. But Avram Glazer He's the one with the ponytail and the bald head. He is understood to be against the full sale of Manchester United and has been asking the Rain Group to attract bidders in a fishing expedition to see how much they might theoretically be worth, so that they can sell at some undefined point in the future. That's also from the Mail. However, Joel Glazer is thought to be reticent but persuadable about a full sale of Manchester United as long as they bank a massive premium. So the second possibility is a sale will proceed, but only at close to £6 billion. So what you've got going on here, the latest on the news for the sale before we get into anything else, is that you've got people who want to buy the football club. We know that. We've spent weeks talking about that. But you've got this internal conflict in the Glazer family where 4 of them want to sell and 2 of them don't want to sell. Although maybe Joel is persuadable and Avram wants to stay. Could he buy out his siblings? I don't know. I don't think so. Could he persuade them to stay? Potentially. But I think that where we're at with this is that I think the most logical thing to do is to look at it in a sense and go, what are the chances of them actually staying? Can you wish Northwest Sky luck in their away tie against Fort William this morning, says Freddie. Good luck to them, Freddie. And watch the tour of Newcastle Stadium and it looks better than inside Old Trafford. The owners really have ruined this club inside and out, says Jack Birtles there. But look, before we get into this, I still think the Glazers will sell. It's a personal opinion. And what you've got to remember is, and I don't know the intricacies of this 100%, but the Glazers own 69% of this football club. So I've always, and maybe somebody can explain this to me, if Sir Jim Radcliffe bought this football club for $5 billion from the Glazers, he still only owes 69%. He's paying $5 billion for 69%. And this is what I mean. The valuation of that football club has to be, well, what? 80%, 70% is 5 billion. That means there's another 30%. So really, it's north of 7 billion, the value of the club. If you're paying 5 billion for the Glazers 69%, you still don't own 30%. So the rest of them can say, well, if you paid 5 billion for 69%, then we want the same for our 31%, which is well over half of 5 billion. So it's north of 7 billion value. It's ridiculous. But there is an upside to that. Don't get the hype for HOJLUND when we have someone like Ivan Ferguson right here in the Premier League, built and hungry like Young Rooney, says Nickel. Well, I don't disagree with you on that one. And surely the Rain Group are going to want their commission from the Glazers from a sale. They won't want their time wasted on a paper exercise, says Glenny Boy. Exactly, I think that's a good point. But one thing I was thinking about is, this investment opportunity that the Glazers have been looking at. Never forget they own 69% of the club. If they sell more than 19%, they are not the majority owner of the football club. 19% would take them down to 50% from 69%. What can you sell 69% of your club for? Well, they want 5 billion and they walk away. If they want to stay and they want to sell for investment, then they need somebody to buy the 30% from somebody, or they need to sell only 19% of their own money. So say they do that and they raise £2-3 billion and they retain over 55% by selling little bits of the other percentage. Well, they only own just over half the club. So if they sell it for 10 billion in 5 years' time, and that's a big ask, they still only get 5 billion. So you know what I mean? It's like, even if the Glazers stay, they're going to have to give up more percentage of their ownership, which reduces their ownership. If they then sell it in the future, is the club realistically going to get sold for 10 billion in the next 5 years? No. Are they going to have a more comfortable ride from the fans? No. I don't see it. What I'm trying to say, and also, if you sell to an investor, are they going to still be able to take dividends out as easy? No. And if they do, they'll have to give dividends to the other investor as well. I don't see the profitability of Manchester United in the future if the Glazers decide to stay. They can say, oh, we want to stay, but everybody knows they've got to spend on the stadia, the infrastructure and the squad. Because if you don't, sponsors walk away and, the revenues drop. If they want the revenues to go up and they want the value of the club to go up, they've got to spend money on the club. And if they spend money on the club, they've got to give up more of their ownership and also spend what they get for their ownership. Basically, if the Glazers sell 19% and go down to 50% ownership, that 19%, 1.5 billion, they'd like to take it for themselves, but they can't. They've got to put it into the club. So I just don't see what this model is for the Glazers to stay. I really don't. And I know some people are fearful of it. I'm not. I've always been. I don't trust the Glazers, but I don't see a business model for them to stay because they've got to spend on the club. I think we should look into Thiago Almada. He was part of Argentinian team in Qatar and plays for Atalanta, and he's brilliant, totally worth it, says Perzus. And Avram Glazer owns 10%. Darcy Joel own 20%. All lies there are just negotiating a price. Avram has sold shares already, says Daniel. Thank you very much for that. So look, that's the latest on the sale this morning, and I personally do think the Glazers are being forced into a sale. I felt that they would sell last summer, and I've always said it's because of the stadia. The stadium needs a lot of money, billions of pounds, and they haven't got it. That's what I think will force them to sell. I don't believe they've gone down the process of people seriously trying to buy the football club from them to go, yeah, we're on a fishing expedition. I just don't see it. And also, their life will be miserable if they stay in charge of Manchester United, because Man United fans are not just going to let it go. So that's how I feel on that. Maybe we can touch on that a little bit more on the 8 o'clock show or later on in this show. But I want to move on to some more topical news. There's a lot to get through this morning. Couple of bits on transfers, actually. I mean, it's a Sunday morning, so you do sometimes get some weird stories out there. We have been linked to Evan Ferguson, who is obviously this Irish superstar of the future, I believe, playing at Brighton at the moment. Scored, I think, for Ireland midweek when we were over there. Fantastic talent. I really would like United to be going for him. Brighton would want a premium, but we've done this in the past and we need to start doing this. We did it with Rooney from Everton. We did it with Rio Ferdinand from Leeds. There are other players we've done it where we've spent big on young, exciting talents from the Premier League, and I think Ferguson is a player I would really like. But we've also been linked this morning with a guy called Rasmus HOJLUND, I think his name is. He's currently, I think he's 20 years of age, just over 6 foot. He's playing his football in Atalanta in the Italian league at the moment. I think they signed him last summer from Sturm Graz, I think it was, via Copenhagen. Really interesting profile of striker. I've not seen loads of him, but I know a lot of you in the chat have. Apparently Manchester United have been interested in him. He would be very interested in signing for Manchester United. You know what? For me, this is just another positive. We want Osimhen. Some people want Kane. Some people want Sesko. Some people want Moani, who we spoke about yesterday. But look, there are a lot of talented strikers out there. We just mentioned Ferguson at Brighton. There's this lad at Atalanta. I think it's an interesting profile of a striker. He's raw. I think he's raw, but he's not as raw as as an up-and-coming striker you might have from the Championship. You know, he has proved himself to be a really interesting profile of striker that can play in the Premier League. He's quite mobile. You know, he's quite tall. He's good on the link-up play. His movement in and around the box is really good. What I would say about this is, and I can't really sit here and say he's the perfect striker for Manchester United when I barely watched him, but what I would say is, from what I've seen of him, if Erik ten Hag said that's the striker I want because I can turn him into the next, Cavani or Benzema or whatever, then buy him. If we went for Rasmus HOJLUND this summer and we didn't go for Osimhen and we didn't go for Sesko and we didn't go for Harry Kane, I'd be really excited. These are the sort of players that I would be excited about, because Ten Hag has proved himself, certainly at Ajax and at Manchester United, that he can develop a player. And if he sees a player like that and goes, that player is going to be the next Haaland or the next Benzema in the next 5 years, let's go and get him, then I'd be all over that. I don't know how true it is that we're looking at a player like this, but it can only be a positive that there are so many options out there. And again, a 20-year-old striker, I mean, I don't know how much he would watch. I don't know how much it would cost. Let me know in the chat what you think. I mean, he's 20 years of age. He's only signed for them a year ago. And he is currently, I think he's got a 5-year contract. Alfred says, watch his game for Denmark against Finland. But look, he has got links to Manchester United, so it's worth just throwing it in. We'll see if anything happens about it in the future. But the chances of Atalanta being in the Champions League next season are probably quite slim. I mean, I think they're currently 3 points off fourth, but Juventus are coming up hard behind them, even with their points deduction. They may not be in Europe at all. So, look, on the other hand, he's a young player that might not need to leave Atalanta this summer. Maybe they want to keep him for another year. But it's certainly a player to keep an eye Harry has to go, and we need youngsters with the right mentality that love football, are willing to work hard and for the club. Only United matters, says Andre. And I try not to get emotional about what players say to the press. However, Maguire has really grinded my gears. That sense of entitlement is not wanted at our club, says Charlie Max. So yeah, let's see what happens with HOJLUND, whether he is linked to Manchester United or not. He's definitely an interesting striker. Greg wants Evan Ferguson. I mean, I'd prefer Evan Ferguson because I know more about him and he's playing in the Premier League, and that's why we know more about him. But again, and I said it on stage in Manchester on Thursday, the midfielder I would go for is Frankie de Jong because it's the player that Erik ten Hag wants. If Erik ten Hag wants Ferguson or he wants HOJLUND, go and get him. That's what I would say to the board. Go and get them, because I think the manager has earned that right to be trusted on those sort of things. Just going back to what Charlie and a couple of people were saying, if you didn't watch the show yesterday afternoon, it was well worth a watch. United GBG says, I'm going through all your Going for Goldbridge videos. It looks like looking into a treasure trove. It's a very good channel to watch back on if you want to go on my Mark Goldbridge channel. There's some really good stuff on there, actually. Anyway, I wanted to just go through that comment there from Charlie, who's a regular contributor to the chat. I'm sure many of you know who Charlie is. Yesterday, a quote came out from Harry Maguire where he said he doesn't have anything to prove. He's played 50 times for England. He's played 200 times for Manchester United, and he's the captain. I wasn't very happy about it. I don't think anybody was. I've seen journalists that are very pro Maguire saying, it was out of order. Fair play. There's always two sides to a story. I did that video yesterday, and a couple of people quote tweeted me with a quote from David De Gea saying he doesn't have anything to prove. And basically, typically is the way the world works. Everybody's red light or green light. So I'm a hypocrite for saying that Harry Maguire shouldn't say it when David De Gea said it. My answer is really simple. David De Gea shouldn't have said it. No Manchester United player should be saying I've got nothing to prove. No, they shouldn't. So when De Gea said it, maybe I missed it at the time. Maybe I didn't think much of it at the time. Maybe there was some context to it at the time. But I did, I said it yesterday. I don't care whether you're Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, David De Gea. Saying publicly you've got nothing to prove is wrong in a Man United shirt. It's always wrong. However, there is a world of difference between Harry Maguire saying I've got nothing to prove in a Man United shirt and David De Gea saying I've got nothing to prove in a Man United shirt. David De Gea has won multiple Player of the Year awards. He is without question a United great. Wherever you put him on the spectrum, whether it's legend or great, he's definitely there. And if anybody hasn't got anything to prove, it's David De Gea, because he's been here for over 10 years, performing for 10 years. And I think sometimes David De Gea gets criticism, which he probably thinks, I'm not going to listen to the criticism because I don't need to listen to it. I've got nothing to prove to those people. There's context to it. I don't like the statement I've got nothing to prove in a Man United shirt, because I think you've always got to prove something. But I think the context of David De Gea's is very different to that of Harry Maguire's, who has never proved himself in a Man United shirt to me. I don't like the statement from De Gea whenever it was said, but it's the context of it is very, very different, because you've got a player that's proved themselves multiple times over many years and a player who never has. So I don't like the statement, but comparing them as the same thing is ridiculous. It's completely wrong. So I'm more than happy to hit it head on, because I got quote tweeted by a couple of people. But I think you're showing yourself up as an idiot if you think that David De Gea saying he's got nothing to prove and Harry Maguire saying he's got nothing to prove is the same. It's not the same. It's completely different, because it shouldn't be said by either. But David De Gea has got credit in the bank. Harry Maguire's overdrawn, and it's time to kick him out. I think. I hope Harry Maguire has a good end to the season and goes. Maybe there's a miracle where he can turn it around and become a world-class centre-back. But I've got to say, as a footballer for Man United, it's just not very endearing. I don't want him to play games for us anymore. Anyway, I don't think he's good enough. And I think the way he speaks publicly, not only is he not easy on the eye when he plays, his comments are nauseating, and I just don't know where his head is at the moment. it's just weird the stuff he comes out with, and he doesn't do himself any favours, does he? And that's all I'm going to say. Jay says, my friend visited Old Trafford. He said Ten Hag doing a great job. Stadium looks old and rusting, says Jay. Thank you very much for that, Jay. Hi, also, we've had a super chat from Rory. He says, bad case scenario and the club isn't sold till, say, September. What sort of budget would we be looking at in the summer, not counting sales, says Rory. It's a good question, Rory. If the Glazers were still here and for this summer transfer window, I would imagine our budget will be around £80 million plus sales. So, I do think the Glazers would provide something. I mean, look, they might not provide anything. They didn't in January. They might not, but I would imagine it would be around 80 million plus sales, because that's what they normally do. Please wish my son Oliver a happy 18th birthday for today. Coming to see you in London this week. Love the show, says Sean Nash. Happy birthday to Oliver. Can't wait for the show on Wednesday night in London. Don't forget, if you want to get your tickets, links in the video description. I don't know how many we've got left because I haven't actually had the email through, but there may well be some tickets left. So links in the video description. Check it out. Be a good show on Wednesday, the last of the international tour. And Rast says, I think Maguire said that after being responsible for conceding against Italy. Very deluded. Says, I don't know. Was he responsible for the goal against Italy? I don't care. I haven't seen any. I think I've seen the penalty. I've got no interest in watching England, and I won't watch them this afternoon either. I'd rather watch paint dry. I find them rubbish, to be honest. I find Southgate an absolute waste of time, and I don't think you learn anything. We've also been linked to Kovacic. I wanted to bring that in. I can't remember where this came from. It's a Sunday morning show. Apparently he was at fault for the goal. I'll have to watch it back. But look, if Harry Maguire didn't say silly things publicly, and somebody was asking me to just assess the player. Look, here's the best way to look at a player is, and I never hear people saying this, whether it's ex-players, Match of the Day, Sky. So here's another exclusive hot take for the United Stand community, right? Think of it like this and see if it works for you. When you're asking, and I think you always must reassess things in life. You can't just sit there going, I think Scott McTominay's crap, or I think Marcus Rashford's overrated, or I think Bruno, distributes the ball badly and he's overrated. I'm talking about negatives here, and I don't think a lot of those things. But what I never want to do is become stereotypical in my assessment of football. So when I see people slagging off David De Gea, I will watch him probably a little bit more than I normally would. Even though I trust him, I'll watch him a little bit more and go, well, to be fair, he could have done a little bit better with that distribution, but that save, not many goalkeepers in the world make it. So I think you should always reassess a player on an ongoing situation so that you're not being unfair. If like when McTominay played because Casemiro couldn't play against Fulham, I was like, he hasn't played well this season. I think we should sell him, but look, maybe he'll have a good game. And I watched him, and he still hid behind Pereira. He still, gets skipped past too easily because he's too slow, and there's not really any improvement from him. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and I'll assess him. The way I would look at Maguire is and Fred to a certain extent, any player that you're thinking about selling in the summer. So McTominay would obviously be there. Maybe you throw Wan-Bissaka in there. Maybe you put Lindelof in there. The way I look at these players is, I know that they're currently Manchester United players, but would you sign them in the summer? And that's how I look at it, because that way you look at their attributes and go, do they have the attributes that we need to move forward? It's a very, very intelligent way to look at your squad as you move forward and progress. Would you sign these players if they were on the open market to sign in the summer? And I look at someone like Harry Maguire and I go, we need a centre-back that can fill in for Varane, who does pick up injuries, and Varane is mobile, experienced, controls the back four, decent on the ball, and, is a top quality centre-back. Maguire ain't mobile. I don't think he's proven as a top quality centre-back, and he's better in a defensive line that doesn't go forward and protects him. I wouldn't be buying him in the summer. We need a centre-back that can be left on their own as a two. I would be looking at the likes of a Kim Min-jae. Maybe Ten Hag likes Timber enough to trust him. But I wouldn't be looking at Harry Maguire. So it's not about he's currently at the club. He hasn't got the attributes for what we need. And that's why I wouldn't sign him. I wouldn't go anywhere near him. I wouldn't, even if he was available for 40 million, I wouldn't. He's not the right profile of centre-back for Manchester United. And he's 30 years of age now. He's not a developmental player either. So that's the way I look at a lot of our players. Now, Fred's an interesting one because Fred's 30 as well. But would I be signing Fred for £25 million? I might look at Fred at 30 for £25 million as a bench option because he's tenacious. He can come in and do a job. He always gives it his all. You know, he's a bit inconsistent, but he's a quintessential bench player. And we've already got him. So, you know, I probably would pay £25 million for Fred as a bench option for Manchester United because it fills a role that we need to fill. It's an interesting way to look at it, I think. Kovacic. If I were Ten Hag now, I wouldn't let Maguire anywhere near the youth. It sends the wrong message. Just because you play for United doesn't mean you've made it, says Dia. Well, look, at the end of the day, I think we've spoken about some of these players before. Some people really would. Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, Ten Hag makes the decision. Would I be surprised if Harry Maguire is still a Man United player next season? No, I really would not be surprised if he's still here next year. So for me, Ten Hag makes the decision, but ultimately, Maguire just can't stop making himself unappealing as a Man United player because he doesn't know how to speak as a Man United player. He's not mastered the humility of being a Man United player. He's not mastered the shut up and put up mentality of being a Man United player. He's not mastered the mentality of being a Man United player, which is you have to give your all every single game, and you don't blame shift, and ultimately it's not a very endearing thing to do. Maybe at Leicester that's absolutely fine, but not at Manchester United. I think to be fair to Maguire, Solskjaer over promoted him. He gave him the captaincy too soon, and it's a prime example of too much too soon and thinking you've made it when you haven't. And maybe he can change, but we're not seeing any evidence of that. Kovacic is very interesting. I forget where this story's come from this morning, but he's only got 1 year left on his contract, Kovacic, and Chelsea are ever evolving. Now, I've always said that probably for the last 2 years, when I'm asked who my favourite player at Chelsea is, and favourite player is the wrong word, but you know what I mean, what player at Chelsea do you like the most? Kovacic has always been a player that I really like. Now, he's interesting because I think he's only got 1 year left in his contract, and correct me if I'm wrong, he's 28. So he's certainly not somebody that's 32. I think he's a player that maybe if the Chelsea story is over, I wanted him when he was at Real Madrid to come to Manchester United. I'd be very happy. I mean, Man City and Pep have been linked to him. I would really like him at Man United. I think he's a player that really does improve your midfield depth, and you could stick him next to Casemiro and it would work. You could stick him in the midfield too with Fred and it would work. So look, I don't know whether Man United are looking at Kovacic. It seems like and I agree with Wilf, it feels like Kovacic has been around for a long time, but Dusan says I like him. I like the player. I mean, I don't know, and again, it's a bit like Rasmus HOJLUND, isn't it? Whether we end up buying him or not this summer, probably not, but it's worth discussing these options when they get linked to Manchester United. I would go for Kovacic over Kante, Kian. I'm not saying that Kovacic is better than Kante, but I think Kante's done, really. I think the volume of injuries that Kante's picked up in the last 2 years, heading into his 30s, I wouldn't go anywhere near Kante because of injuries. Prime Kante, yes, of course. He's one of the best midfielders we've seen in the world over the last 10 years, but I wouldn't go near Kante now. Kovacic, I would. And again, it comes down to Erik Ten Hag. If Erik Ten Hag is saying to the United board, Kovacic has got 1 year left on his contract, this is another Eriksen, make sure you get the deal done, they should go and get the deal done. Do I think it will happen? Well, I think Chelsea would be foolish to remove Kovacic, to be honest with you. So, look, I'd be very interested in that profile of signing, to be honest with you. But I don't know whether I don't know. But look, if he's not going to sign a new contract at Chelsea and they are ever evolving and he's not part of Potter's plans, then I think Man United would be naive and silly not to be involved in that. Apparently Gareth Southgate's come out and backtracked, typical politician, about Rashford. We spoke about it yesterday. Southgate was basically, I believe, sort of throwing Rashford publicly under the bus. He's had to come out again and say something a bit nicer. He said we would now... So he's completely flip-flopped here, because yesterday he was saying, how can he be an option when he's never available? We're disappointed and frustrated. Now he's coming out and saying we would have liked to have him as an option, but that's not the case. It's obvious that he's played a lot for us. He has more than 50 caps with England, including nearly 50 since I became coach. Yeah, so his idiocy of saying that he's hardly ever been available, he's had to backtrack on that because he's a prat. Anthony Alanga's spoken about his future. He says it's important to me that I play. I do love the club, but I'm going to have a chat with Ten Hag about my future. Look, he ain't good enough. Ain't good enough. I like Alanga. He should have gone on loan last summer. He should have gone loan in January. He ain't good enough to play for Manchester United. He ain't good enough to get off the bench at the moment. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't want to be blunt, but I will be. Well, I don't mind being blunt, actually. Alanga is currently not better than Sancho, not better than Rashford, not better than Antony, not better than Garnacho, and not better than Pellistri. So he's sixth choice as a young player. He's absolutely right to have a conversation with Ten Hag. And at this point, you'd start to say, I mean, isn't Alanga 22 now as well? He's probably lost 18 months of his career through no fault of his own. Ranić needed to keep him because he had no options, and I think Ten Hag's had to keep him because he's low on options as well. But the problem is he wasn't ready to be an option, so he was always a bit part. I mean, Alanga, let's be honest, Alanga was basically a bum on a seat for the bench. And what I mean by that is I don't mean like bum in the sense if you live in America, a bum can be somebody who's crap. I mean like he literally is somebody to sit on the bench as an option. I like Alanga, but his development has been stunted by the fact that he's just had to be used as a bench option when really he should have been out on loan. If Everton go down, I'd take Godfrey as first choice, says Luke. Okay. Alanga's 21 in a month, so he's not 22 yet. He's 20 at the moment. So no, he's still got time. But he needs to get out on loan and play regular football. I think we all know that. And his development has suffered. And you know what? I've always respected Alanga in the sense that I think there is a talent there. But he's done it. It's like taking one for the team, isn't it? He's ended up staying at United for 18 months to be a bench option, whilst people like Ahmad and Garner and others like Laird, etc., have gone and developed their careers. His development is stunted. Big shout out to Abdul, Razor, JT and Taylor, members on the channel, as well as Hadi and Licker. I'm just seeing the members. We just had a glut of members putting comments in the chat there, so I saw all the badges, so just giving you a shout out for that. Thank you very much for being a member of the channel. Thoughts on Polina? Could we go for him, says Kian? Well, unfortunately or fortunately, Fulham will not be relegated, so there's not a bargain to be done there. But Polina's interesting, of Paulina, however you pronounce it, of Fulham, is very interesting because we've been doing this show for years now, and I remember when he was in Portugal before he came to Fulham. He was linked to United for a good 3 years. And, to some people it wasn't that interesting. To some people it was. But you look at it and you go, you know what? He would have been a good signing. I mean, I can't remember how much Fulham paid for him, but it wouldn't have been ridiculous amounts of money. And I think whoever was scouting Polina and whoever was linking him to Man United at United deserves a bit of credit. We were scouting him for a long time and we were interested in him. We just never made that leap. But I think we would have been right to. I think he would have done. I mean, look, we've seen him this season for Fulham. He's been really good for them. And without him, they're not the same team. He's definitely better than McTominay. I mean, like 100% better than McTominay. And if you had him and Casemiro, you'd be absolutely sorted for backup. Like he's brilliant at that job of just, taking the ball off the back four, shielding the back four, running the midfield. I don't know how likely it is, and I think he's into his late 20s now. But he's a very good player. Ronnie Pickering, I'm Ronnie Pickering. He says, to be fair, Maguire was brilliant against Italy. I think he should start at the weekend, says Ronnie. Well, Ronnie, he may well start at the weekend because we don't know how long Varane is going to be out for. We're hoping that Varane will be back next Saturday, and we need him back next Saturday. But I'm pretty sure that Varane will miss more games. I mean, for me, Lindelof should be playing. But Aditya says, would you go Sabitzer or Kovacic? You know what? I like Kovacic. What I would like to do on that answer is wait until the end of May, because it's not fair on Sabitzer to say Kovacic at the moment. We haven't seen enough of Sabitzer playing regularly in the Premier League, so I would reserve judgment on that until the end of May. But what I would say is, what Sabitzer does need to do, because we know Eriksen's going to be back very, very soon, Sabitzer needs to get himself into Ten Hag's first team plans, because if If he doesn't, then he will be let go by Bayern. You can't sign a player that doesn't want to be. Sorry, you can't sign a player on a permanent deal who is behind Casemiro, Eriksen, and Fred. There's no point. There's no point buying a midfielder that's fourth choice. Everything you bring in, and I've heard Ten Hag say this before, everything you bring in has got to be with an eye to going straight into your first team. And if he has Sabitzer for 5 months and continues to pick Fred and Eriksen ahead of him, then I don't think you'll sign him in the summer. So that's the challenge for Sabitzer. He's got to be in the first team by, end of April, which will be a challenge because Ten Hag loves Eriksen, he loves Bruno, he loves Casemiro, and he likes Fred. So that's the thing for Sabitzer. He's got to get himself into that first team, and I think he can do it. A lot of people want him to stay, like Kean wants him to stay. A lot of people want him to stay. And Red Olsen says Sabitzer's better than Fred and offers more. But that's what I mean. He's got to put himself into that situation. Any news on the overlap? Well, I was laughing about that because on Friday night, somebody said that on the Overlap YouTube page, they had a community tab post saying who should come on next. And I went and had a look at it, and it was just a wash with Mark Goldbridge. So, thanks everyone for that recommendation. I would happily go on it, as you know. Probably won't get invited on it. But I have replied to a couple of Gary's tweets over the weekend saying fancy a pint and what about that pint, which apparently keep ratioing him, which is not my intention. It's just, I know he reads his replies. He's probably getting quite irritated by it. But look, forget the overlap. We'd love Gary Neville to come on the United Stand, the biggest Manchester United fan channel in the world by a very long way, the biggest community. Why would you duck it as a Man United legend who's got a big opinion on it? It's ridiculous. We've never met each other. I disagree with a lot of people. It's nothing personal. I'd be intrigued if I was Gary of the opportunity of coming and having a chat with you good people. But look, we'll keep knocking on the door in a very serious way, and we'll see what happens, because I don't understand. He's building something out with his YouTube. We've already built something massive. Why would you duck that? It's a bit like Tyson Fury and Usyk, isn't it? Tyson Fury, I wanted to see that fight, and he's ducked it and trying to make out, that it's Usyk's fault. They should be doing everything they can to provide everybody with that. And look, Gary Neville's an ex-player of Man United. He's a legend, but I can't compete with that. But what we can compete with is our community is massive. And in a YouTube debate sense, I think it'd be very interesting. So whether it's the overlap or here, the door's open and we'll keep knocking on it. But I don't think he'll do it. I don't know why, but I don't think he'll do it. The chat I had on stage in Manchester with Ben Foster on Thursday was brilliant, by the way. Really good banter, really good chat, and he took the sheep gift well as well, which is what it's all about. We don't bite. It's nothing personal. It's just about we love the debate, we love the conversation, we love the disagreements, and that's what it's all about. I'd love to sit and have a chat with somebody that's passionately against Qatar and wants a gym, because I think it'd be a great conversation. Hi Mark, EA Sports. I played the game. This is Nathan T. Anything about new contracts? Somebody said there. I think that Rashford's contract is not going to get done until we've got new owners. I personally think the new contract will either be Delot or De Gea. That's what I've been told. Mark, see the dates and fixtures of April now, says Akash. Well, we can just do that very, very quickly. I know that a lot of them have been announced now, so let's have a look. Man United fixtures. Well, look, it's been nice to have a couple of weeks off football, hasn't it? I love Man United playing, but it's been relentless, even for fans, to watch us play every 3.5 days since December the 27th. But, to be able to do these live shows in Dublin and Manchester and London next week is great. I think we're going to do some more in June, so hopefully we'll announce some dates soon if you want to come. One spoiler I can give you is that I think we're going to look for Belfast, but we'll see. Anyway, April fixtures. We've got Newcastle next. I thought Newcastle was on Saturday lunchtime. don't know why I thought Newcastle was next Saturday lunchtime. It's Sunday afternoon. I thought we were next Saturday lunchtime. That surprised me. So next Sunday we play Newcastle. We've got Brentford on the Wednesday at home. Then we've got Everton at home on the Saturday. Then on the Thursday we play Sevilla at Old Trafford, and on the Sunday we play Forest at Nottingham. Then we play Sevilla away on the Thursday, and then we've got the FA Cup against Brighton, which they haven't moved yet. It still says 3 o'clock on the Saturday, which it won't be. That needs to be moved. Then we play Spurs on the Thursday, and then we play Villa on the Sunday. And then into May, we've got Brighton on the Thursday, West Ham on the Sunday, and then if we go through against Sevilla, we'd be playing on the Thursday in the Europa League semi-final, then Wolves, then the second semi-final, then Bournemouth, and then Fulham, and hopefully an FA Cup final and a Europa League final as well. So it comes thick and fast, doesn't it? It really does. So yeah, loads and loads to be interested in. Woke up in a bad mood and you've cheered me up, mate, says Luke. Thank you very much. I'm often in that. I often feel like that. I'm often in a bad mood, and then I do the United Stand morning show and I feel a lot better. It's therapy, isn't it? I'll give you a little glimpse into the show, actually. There's one question that's like, what's your favourite thing about the United Stand? And obviously it's the revenue, but that's the joke. People laugh at that, even though it's true. No, but the thing I enjoy most about the United Stand is the knowledge that, you know, a couple of times a day I can go live with people who are as passionate and intelligent, and sometimes a lot more intelligent than I am, about something I absolutely love, and being able to do that a couple of times a day, talking about the thing that, you know, I'm most passionate about, which is football. It's a pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. And I'm always sad when the stream's about to end. But we will be back at 8 o'clock tonight, and if anything happens before then, we'll go live as well. But Sunday night, 8 o'clock show, can't wait for that. I mean, the United Stand started off with one show a week on a Sunday night at 8 o'clock, so it's great to be doing an 8 o'clock show tonight. It's been a long time because of all the because we've been playing on a Sunday, haven't we? So there's not normally an 8 o'clock show. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe, and we will see you at 8 o'clock tonight. Don't forget that if you're going to be in London on Wednesday, or you want to be in London on Wednesday, it'll be well worth getting your tickets. Great show, can't wait for that, and I'll speak to you all in a bit. Links in the video description. Thanks for watching.